Ted Cruz is still facing a ton of criticism over his decision to be a good dad by going to Cancun while millions of his constituents go without power or food or drinkable water. His explanation has evolved a bit. Let's take a look at one of the most recent forms.
Whether the decision to go was tone deaf, look, it was obviously a mistake, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it. I was trying to be a dad, and all of us have made decisions. When you've got two girls who have been cold for two days and haven't had heater power, and they're saying, hey, look, we don't have school, why don't we go, let's get out of here.
Yeah, they're freezing. Dad, save us, take us to the most convenient place, down Cancun way. But anyway, I as I talked about on the Damage Report this morning, I hate the little shrugs and the little, like it's so affected, it's so on purpose and performative, his attempt to be folksy, and it just doesn't sell, especially when he is trying to defend the indefensible. What do you think?
Yeah, so John, I kind of like the shrugs because he looks weak doing it. He looks like a beta. And so like what you could tell when he's lying, well, first of all, when his mouth opens. But second of all, when he's defensive about his lying, when he does he moves his head, he moves his shoulders a lot, and it looks weak and defensive. Here's how Trump would have handled this. I went down to Cancun because only suckers and losers stay in the cold. I'm a very stable genius. Stable geniuses go to Cancun. I can afford it because I'm really rich, unlike those suckers in Texas. And everybody in Texas who is a Republican would have been like, yes, what a genius that guy is. So in a sense, politically, Ted Cruz has made a mistake here by admitting a mistake. Now, I see people still looking for a pound of flesh and saying, no, he needs to formally apologize. No, that was an apology. Let's keep it real. I'm a progressive. I despise Ted Cruz. Now, okay, we'll get no. We'll have a conversation about it. We'll have a conversation, okay? So, but my favorite excuse was like, my kids, my daughters, they were a little cold, so we decided we just got to go to Ritz-Carlton at Cancun. Wow, well, that must be nice. So, by the way, your daughters maybe had to go to the Ritz-Carlton at Cancun. You didn't have to go. So that's a totally different situation. All right, Kenya, what do you think?
I mean, I think I'm just imagining growing up in Wisconsin, just the number of countries I would have almost automatic dual citizenship with every time we got to leave on account of a snowstorm. I don't think we would actually live in the state. But can you imagine? I think it speaks to something as your tenure as a congressman, your validity as a politician, and then just your overall humanity. When you're looking at when someone can log online and see what a POS trending and immediately think to themselves, oh my gosh, what did Senator Ted Cruz do now? Without even having to know much of the story. But I mean, with all seriousness, we're talking about a pretty serious situation here where you have folks who are going, out days, weeks without power, without electricity, or without heat, without food. And for that, it just sends the wrong message. And just as much as it sends the wrong message to head off to Cancun at a time when your constituents are suffering, it looks equally pathetic for you to then be cowering and finally acknowledging the state you abandoned by wearing the state flag as your mask as you tried to tiptoe back. It just was an all-around bad look.
Yeah, Cenk, I think, look, very few politician apologies are very good. So I think that the bar is set pretty low. If you even approach it, you're gonna be better than most. But I don't think it can be an apology if you do the apology and then you lie about why you had to do the thing you're apologizing for. I don't think it can be an apology if you apologize and then you attack the media as trying to spin it into something negative when it's obviously negative. It has to be negative or you wouldn't be apologizing for it. So if you apologize and then make excuses and lie and try to turn people to be mad at the media or your daughters or whatever, it's not an apology. It's certainly not a good apology.
No, John, of course, right? So look, the core of the lie is not just Ted Cruz, it's shared by every Republican in Texas, let alone the rest of the country. And I want to say this every time we talk about this story. You must understand that it was because of the deregulation of the energy companies. They chose not to insulate their pipes, and that's what caused the debacle. And it could have been mitigated if they were part of the federal energy grid, but they chose not to be. Why? Because of both conservative ideology and crony capitalism and corruption. And so they got paid by those fossil fuel companies. And so the real apology would be Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott, Rick Perry, George W. Bush, all of them coming out and doing a press conference together and saying, we were wrong. We thought not being connected to the rest of the country was a good idea, but it turns out we needed the rest of you. And we're so sorry because now we're asking for federal assistance. And it turns out we did need you. And secondly, we deregulated these energy companies because they gave us campaign contributions, what you colloquially call bribes. And so a lot of you died because of that. We're so sorry. That would be the proper apology. But of course we're not gonna get that. And all I'm saying, John, is that politically, when he does the shrug and saying, and I had to take my daughters to Ritz-Carlton, right? And he says it was a mistake. That actually politically in Republican circles is a mistake because Republicans like dumb, lying alpha dogs. So when he admits it's a mistake, they actually have less respect for him.
Well, I would say especially when the excuse that you come up with is going to evaporate in the next day, when probably the friends who were going with you to Cancun leak the original chat conversations that led to the trip and prove that you needing to go as a chaperone and you needing to go because your daughters came up with a trip, neither of those are actually true. So we found out that group text messages sent by Heidi Cruz, the senator's wife, show that the family's Cancun controversial getaway was a last-minute decision, one that came after she invited other friends in what was an attempt on her part to flee the Cruz's freezing home. She wrote, anyone can or want to leave for the week, we may go to Cancun. The senator's wife also pitched a direct flight and hotels with capacity, seriously, and talked about how it was only a little bit more than $300 a night and has very good security. So apparently it was her idea. And she was going, which provides a parental chaperone if you need one. So his excuse, like as I said on the Damage Report this morning, I admire Ted Cruz for finally not throwing his wife under the bus. But his excuses just aren't true based on what has now been leaked.
Yeah, let alone Snowflake.
Oh, you want to see Snowflake? So what the snowflake that Cenk is referring to there is his dog. Journalist Michael Hardy tweeted this, just drove by Ted Cruz's house in Houston. His lights are off, but a neighbor told me the block had its power back last night. Also, Ted appears to have left behind the family poodle, which is happy because now there's power. By the way, if you look at that picture, if you zoom in, it's the saddest thing. Snowflake's like, where did they all go? It was freezing last night. Now, apparently there was a security guard, but it was basically abandoned.
How could this happen to me?
It looks like Ted Cruz was trying to do a reboot of All Dogs Go to Heaven, but then the power came back on.
Yeah, look, Kenya, my sense is that you could be vicious to human beings in this country and totally get away with it, especially if you're a Republican. But if you mess with a dog, okay, black, white, liberal, conservative, it doesn't matter. People will get very emotional. So when I saw Snowflake trending on Twitter, I thought it was just a reference to Ted Cruz. But it turns out it's his dog. And this is the kind of thing, it is the kind of thing that people will not like. Even Republicans like dogs. So this might be another layer of Ted Cruz's mistake. So overall, Kenya, thoughts on how much lasting damage does this do to Ted Cruz? Is it gonna leave a mark?
I mean, I think we've seen just in the last several weeks the depths of which Ted Cruz is willing to go to look out for Ted Cruz, which is honestly pretty surprising then when you would miss a clear, self-aggrandizing opportunity to just promote yourself, even if for no other reason than to finally look like, a senator capable of getting actionable work done for your constituents, even in the terms of photo ops and opportunities to be in the state, talking with people, talking with your own people who voted for you to at least appear to be working. But I mean, I think this, as we're seeing, there are calls for him to resign. I think we're seeing him take the Donald Trump approach now, which is to assume be a victim here. And even as we saw in the last several weeks, I mean, we watched two senators who ultimately, on account of this action, lost their seats. But we saw two senators, even during the coronavirus pandemic, two Georgia senators profit off of the sale of medical equipment or stock sales related to medical supplies and vaccine distributions. So, it doesn't surprise me the depths to which Republicans are willing to not only profit off of the pain and suffering of American citizens, but then just turn a blind eye to it by essentially hopping to another country, seeking a better life or better opportunity for their children.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.